it is competitive outside. You have to dig, almost twice as hard in order to kind of find something that still makes sense. Stick to what you want to buy, but maybe just make small adjustments to the math to still make it make sense. It's okay to take the risk in Indy because Indy has continued the same ROI year over year and gone up. It's one of those markets that you can almost kind of count on. When things go wild and haywire and crashing, you can still count on Indy to be nice and steady throughout. Don't make big changes, make a small change.
Hey, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Indy Investor Podcast. I'm Brett Snodgrass with Ronnie Reese. What's going on, Big Ron?
Well, hi, Brett. How are you? Hey, people. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes. We are excited for this show. Welcome. If you guys haven't been with us for long, we're all about Indianapolis real estate investing here. And today's an amazing show for us. We're talking about this gold rush of Indianapolis real estate investors flocking in, buying multiple houses, multiple companies, everyone spending big money in this highly competitive market of Indianapolis real estate. And then we're going to really just be diving in. How do you keep the edge with that? And as we're going to be diving into today, but I want to give you guys some quick stats and just some statistics out there as I was kind of going through some articles and reading through the growth of Indianapolis home values. So Ronnie, if I were to say percentage of the increase of prices on a house over the past 5 years, what would you say, like the increase of the price? What would you guess?
At least 30%.
Okay. Oh, it's a good guess. Indianapolis home values have risen by 42% since 2020. So since COVID hit, 42%. So I remember talking to mastermind groups about the $30,000 Indianapolis house, and that was our big deal, right? We could buy houses for $30,000, and those days are no longer here. It's kind of sad. I miss them. Those houses are now, 70,000, right, or plus. So the house prices have increased 42%. What are the drivers? Influx out-of-state buyers coming in, people from California, New York, Illinois, like Chicago, they're all coming in, flocking into affordable Indianapolis because honestly, let's just face it, 70,000 to 100,000 to 120 is very affordable still when you're coming from California. So influx out-of-state buyers. Inventory has just, decreased, causing, supply chains, low mortgage rates. Well, not anymore, but back in 2020 to 2022, mortgage rates were 2%, 3%, 4%. So a lot of people bought up a lot of inventory from their home equity lines. And then the rental market. So Indianapolis has always been a huge rental market. Just great for investors to buy and hold, and rents have gone through the roof. I remember you used to be able to, I think me and my wife rented a house in Noblesville for about $1,200 a month. It was a, 2,000 square foot house, and that would be $2,500 plus right now. So
at least 2,500 right now.
That's right. So booming rental market. In 2020, the median home price was $170. Now it is $240, right? 7% increase year over year. So many characteristics. Indianapolis has been featured in the news, just highly, a market of demand. So many exit strategies. So that's why we love talking about Indianapolis real estate investing. And really, what we're going to talk about today is what do we do about it? What do we do about the competition? So right now, I kind of pass it over to you, man. If you're coming into a highly competitive market, or maybe you've been in it for a while and it's just a lot of competition out there, you have something that kind of comes to your mind of what would you first think of, and how do you pivot a little bit in this competitive market?
Yeah, I talk with a lot of investors, a lot of people that are looking to wholesale. A lot of flippers and things like that. And that has been the one thing they've talked about is, man, it is competitive outside. It is hard to come by, deals. You have to dig, almost twice as hard in order to kind of find something that still makes sense. But one of the things that, I always go back onto, and that is, very simply, still stick with your basics. Just because there are a lot of things that are changing outside still doesn't necessarily mean that you have to make big adjustments to like how you do everything. It might be something very small. Maybe it is that you just change a little bit of your math and metrics. For instance, uh, should you still be buying everything at a 70% ARV? Maybe not. Oh,
Right.
given the way that things have kind of progressed, maybe it's time to adjust that to 74 to 80, now knowing that in Indianapolis, things have continued to steadily increase as far as, just the appreciation, and home values continue to go up. And so it is safer to do that. That is why people come to Indianapolis to park their money and to start their rental portfolios is because the cost of entry is lower. It's stable. It's not as extreme as it would be on the East Coast or as it would be on the West Coast. And you can pretty much kind of count on it. And then all of our laws are still pretty, landlord friendly. Is so, that's what I would do. I would say don't maybe, stick to what you want to buy, but maybe just make small adjustments to the math to still make it make sense because it's okay to take the risk in Indy because Indy has continued the same ROI year over year and gone up steady, I'm saying, year after year. It's one of those markets that you can almost kind of count on. When things go wild and haywire and crashing, you can still count on Indy to be nice and steady throughout. So that's what I would say is just, don't necessarily don't make big changes. Make a small change, maybe again, just to your math and how you're running your numbers, even when it comes down to your buy and holds. We love to say, oh, let's try to get a 2% rule. Okay, that's
Mhm.
kind of
Missed that.
aggressive. All right.
Missed
And
those 2% rules.
right. So,
Those good days.
yeah, no, you just gotta make adjustments, what I'm saying, to that. Move those numbers up because again, over time, you're gonna still get your return.
Yeah, no, it's so funny how things shift, and then you shift as an investor too. Because I remember, yeah, Indianapolis used to be 2% rule, where you basically know what that means. Look up the 2% rule, but you could buy a house and then I think divide it by 2% or take the rent.
Mhm.
I'm gonna mess up the formula, but I think divided by 2% gets you your sales price. So basically, what it means is you could be all in at a $35,000 house and it would rent for 700 a
Yeah.
month, basically. And we used to laugh at like people that would have to do the 1% rule. We're like, haha, those cities, they stink because, they're buying at 70,000 and renting for 700 or 100,000 renting for 1,000. And now that's what we're doing all day,
Yeah.
right? Here in Indy
Okay.
or less. So that's good. Stick to the basics, I think is really, really important. That's what we've been talking about as a team when things get challenging or competitive. Go back to some of the boring basics of doing the right thing, showing up, at least having the conversation, making the offer, and getting your numbers in, and it's just kind of sticking to the basics. I remember Kobe Bryant, obviously famous basketball player, rest in peace. He passed away, but I remember him talking about he would always never get bored with the basics and the fundamentals. And he would do that in the basketball. Even as an NBA star, he would still, do the drills that got him to be to the all-star that he was. So same thing in real estate, stick to the basics. Don't never get bored with it. And I think that's really, really good advice.
Yeah. I'd also say too, just staying consistent, doing what you have to do in order to stay consistent and relevant is important because, you talk about competition. There's a lot of, names that might come and kind of come and go. But if you can show over time as an investor that, hey, I'm steady, I'm here, not necessarily local, but that your presence, you want to continue to be here and show a track record of that, that goes a long way because you can, show your history here. And that matters both to sellers and even contractors and things like that you're working with because sometimes contractors don't have good experiences. Like, oh man, this new investor came in and left me high and dry. And that can help you, as well when you're talking with other contractors because they need our services too. They need the money to be able to do the flips and kind of get things done too. So that's what I say. Do what you have to do in order to be consistent.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, so and some of the other things, obviously, we do this all day, but if you're just tuning in, and you're not, crazy familiar with some of these strategies, just that direct to seller strategy, we've been doing this for years, but stuff that's off the MLS, stuff that is off market, having those conversations, networking with agents, networking with wholesalers, networking with private sellers, obviously, and just try to buy properties off market that aren't on the MLS. And because obviously on the MLS, it's just crazy competitive. The whole world can see it. So I just say if you can develop some sort of strategy, and that's what we do. We develop relationships with other wholesalers.
Mhm.
We're trying to develop relationships with agents now that they have some of those deals, and just to kind of becoming that presence there. So
That's really been good. I wanna speak into that because, I mean, just this week, I mean, I've talked with 2 different agents, that had properties, that don't fit the normal, MLS end buyer homeowner process, given the work that it needs and also too just some of the motivation and timeline, that sellers need. And so we've actually bought properties from other wholesalers that had properties listed on the MLS. And so I asked him, I said, what is that
Mhm,
relationship? It's
mhm,
being inquisitive. It is consistency, even if they aren't necessarily being forthcoming about them being the buyer, about that, but they still have enough presence, to be able to have that realtor trust them. To be able to see if they can, offload the property and get it sold quick. And I do feel like that is still an area that is, definitely ripe to be able to tap into, because who talks to more sellers than us? It is a realtor. The realtor
mhm.
is trusted. The realtor knows, that because that's the line of thinking, and that's fine. And usually investors are in the back line. And I'm also into a situation to where there's a property we really wanted to buy, and it had to go, to a judge to see. But the judge had what? A realtor that he trusted and that
Mm,
meant to, and then they brought the deal to us. So realtors are definitely in having those relationships are key, in order to be able to kind of help guide the competition because a lot of people want boots on the ground, but you're on the ground. You're
mm,
here. You're local.
mhm.
You can handle it. You can do that. And so you can do the other things that a mailing list can't do.
Yeah.
Nothing like belly to belly, a coffee, a handshake, meeting at a meetup. Those
Yeah.
are things that, definitely kind of make things more, it can push things further.
Yeah, no, definitely. Which, if you guys want to come to the Indy wholesaling 101 meetup, Ronnie does a great job there. So talk all about wholesaling. Another thing, just that we this has been around for a while, obviously, but just more than ever is just speed and efficiency.
Yeah.
Being prepared, being ready, having your ducks lined up. Um, you know, and that's having your financing lined up, whether it's hard money or cash. And a lot of people are just waiving everything right now too. So we'll get offers that just waives inspections, close in 7 days, cash deal. But if you can have some of that, some of those things off the table and just being prepared with that, speed and efficiency, and which just you always have to be alert. So we're always looking at deals, digging for deals, looking at the whatever wholesaler deals, MLS deals, or just to have that speed and efficiency, I think is super important, especially in this competitive market. So, wouldn't you say,
I
Ron?
agree. So I agree. I mean, it's almost like speed to lead. Sometimes, and like I'm working on a deal right now. I am literally $2,000 away, but in talking with them, there's like I made the offer 2 weeks ago. It's like well, you're the only one that made an offer. We know that you're for real. You offered first, so we're coming back to you at this reduced price to see if you can close. And so those things matter because you just never know. And this is a property that they wanted $90,000 for, and here we are at 68, getting ready to, probably get this under contract. So
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. I would say, look at market trends. That's the one thing I look at, and like I was talking to a new investor, the other day, and he asked, "What do you think about Fountain Square?" And my response was that ship has really gone, and it's still a great market. It's still a great, place, but they had the Good Bones TV show around Fountain Square and Bates Hendricks right next to it. And that's been a hot area for years now. Um, So I typically don't like to invest a lot of money into that
Mm.
particular area unless you get a great deal. But I'm looking for other areas that could be the next Fountain Square, the next Bates Hendricks. And there's, so I would just look at the market trends in the area. Like Garfield Park or Eastside or Irvington or Speedway, or we like Eagle Dale. Um, but I also talk to our team a lot about maybe a delayed flip. I talk about that sometimes. Where like maybe you're buying a rental property and the area is okay, but you're starting to see a trend where there's a lot of appreciation and flips. And I say, hey, I think this area is actually just going to get nicer and nicer and nicer over the next 3 to 5 years. I'm not really saying, hey, this is going to appreciate a bunch, but I look at like, I think there's maybe a few flips around here, but I bet in 5 years, there's going to be 30 around here and it's going to be a nice area. So that's one. I would just look for areas like that maybe aren't as competitive, like Fountain Square. Like again, it's just super competitive. So
Yeah.
um, awesome. And I would just say the long term. This is a long term game. So looking at it from a long term perspective, if you're into buy and hold investing, play the long game with it, or if look at this market as a long game because Ronnie, the people come in and they leave, and especially out of state investors, they're looking for different markets. They might come in and start pumping a bunch of money into this market and try to do stuff over the phone, and but they might not be here in 6 months. So are you in it for the short term or the long term? And I was like, hey, kind of have that long term perspective. Like, our company's having a challenging month, but we're not in this for a month. We're in it for like, okay, let's look at the bigger picture. And, we're in this for the long term. What's the next year going to look like? What's the next 5 years going to look like? How do we build this foundation to where like these other people might be out, but we're still in this for the long term? So
4,000%, 4,000% agree with you.
yeah. Um, Anything else that you think, competitive market? You're in the field a lot, talking to private homeowners. We're talking to people that have a couple of offers. They got 2 or 3 people coming out this weekend. What are some things you think, when someone is talking to that private homeowner to kind of have that competitive edge?
You know, be sure of yourself because there is a lot of that. Is I run it all the time, and there are other investors that are here, other investors local, and I run up against that a lot. But one of the things that I know, and I always, our selling point, what I'm saying with anyone is the security. Is the I'm not going to overpromise at all. I'm definitely going to frame the expectations of our process with the seller to make sure that they clearly understand. Because there has been, some bills that have been floated around, and so we've been in some of the rooms talking about some of the things that would change the way that real estate investing looks here in Indiana. And so, but what is that because of? Because of that's a reaction to some malpractices and maybe some investors not necessarily being open and honest and transparent about that process, or either the sellers not completely understanding the process and feeling taken advantage of. And so because of that, you want to make sure that you just act integral, make sure that the seller understands what the process is, because the more that they can repeat and understand, they feel safe with you, the more likely they are to go ahead and move forward with you. So that's my biggest thing is that when I'm going in, I'm not trying to sell the seller on my process. I want to make sure that we're a good fit and that we're able to work together collaboratively. That is really the big thing is in trying to position ourselves, as more so as a trusted home buyer and a trusted advisor, as opposed to a salesman that can make the highest and best offer. And a lot of times, sometimes, sellers know, number one, they already know what their home is valued at. They looked on Zillow. We're dealing with more informed sellers that, they're getting, open door letters through the mail. So they kind of have a rough range. And so they're already working with some type of numbers. But what can stand out above the numbers? It is who can really deliver, who's been here, who's secure, whose offer you can really count on, and who offer that you can really build that trust with. And so, I got a property under contract today that, I asked her, I said, ma'am, I said, she said, I think I'm thinking about going and get some other offers, if we can't get to this number. And so I asked her, I said, what exactly do you really want? She said,
Mhm.
honestly, she said, I really want to work with you. She said, because I don't want to go through this whole process and stuff like that again, because she knew exactly what it was. She said, this was just a lot. But she was
Mhm.
like, is there a way that we can still work together? And so, we made a little adjustment to our number, in order to help her. But that was the biggest thing, is that she didn't want to have to go back out there because she knew our process. She
Mhm.
said, this is simple. I looked you up. I saw you guys, we even talked about a Google review that we got.
Mhm.
And so, and so we were able to explain, why do you have a 1-star review? Well, I can explain that. And then
Right.
once we explained it, she's like, oh, that makes sense. And what are we? Just being transparent about that, about those things. So that's the biggest thing, is being transparent, building that trust and rapport with the seller. Um, will sometimes beat price. Sometimes you can't,
Mhm.
and that's okay. But at least if you frame the things the right way and things go south, they'll know they can come back and we can get things rectified.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. I think there's the no wrong way of just being honest, building that trust. And I think that's obviously what we try to do, just building that trusted brand. So a couple other things as we wrap up the show here. Obviously technology has been huge over the past several years, right? I mean, we're in this huge tech age. I've seen this business change so many times just in the past 10 years, let alone what's going to be happening probably in the next 5 years, right? So I would just say try to stay up to date on the technology. We have, again, Ronnie said, we're a lot more informed that sellers are than they were 5, 10 years ago. We're a lot more informed. There's a lot of resources, softwares out there to pull lists, to do different things. And it's just going to become more sophisticated. And I don't know what is exactly going on or what's going to be happening in the next 5 years. But I do know that you can either go against it, which a lot of people will, and say, I'm not going to play in that, and I'm going to stick to my maps instead of using the GPS that's, given to me, or I'm going to use my flip phone versus a smartphone. Like, you can go that
Yeah.
direction, or um, you can figure out, hey, can this be a tool in my tool belt? And can I use AI to help me with certain different things? Maybe it's to help you analyze deals. Maybe it's to help you with your processes. What is it? So I would just say, a lot of resources. There's websites like PropStream or Deal Machine,
Mhm.
different websites like that. And there's all sorts of things. So I would just say, one of the things that our company that we're trying to do is laying the foundation. We're trying to, again, figure out, we would rather take the time to look at some of these different things and to figure out how to use some of these
Right.
tools before going out there. So I would just say, I haven't done this particularly, but I heard a guy say yesterday, like, there's companies out there that they're stopping business for like 30 days to learn how to use these certain AI tools. So then the next 5 years, they can really be up to date with them rather than trying to piece it together here and there, I guess.
Yeah.
So just be up to date on the tech stuff. So I don't know what's coming. Ron, do you have any, do you know what's going to be coming here in the next 5 years?
I mean, we got a lot going on. I mean, we have lead managers that are all AI.
Mhm.
We have people that are now using AI to do deal analysts to help them with analyzation. I mean, there's AI that is also helping with just graphics and stuff. I mean, so I mean, it's getting to a point to where you almost don't need people, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
except to run an appointment. So
Yes. Right.
it's very very interesting just to see. So we'll just
Maybe one of these days, the robot will show up at the door and be like,
right
"Hey,"
behind the
and then
camera.
someone will be on the screen, just like, "Hi," with their face.
I agree. Yeah,
Who knows?
be a print it out right here.
Awesome. Um, and a couple other things. Just, I know this is the Indie Investor podcast, but obviously look at some of the core markets, beyond the core markets, right? We got some great secondary markets here too that are starting to grow a lot. We got Anderson, we got Greenwood, Plainfields,
Arrow Hope.
Greenfields, Kokomo, Terre Haute. Yeah, we got some other secondary markets that I also think that you still might not get the 2% rule, but you can get closer, I would say, right? And so I've even bought rentals in some of those other markets. My bread and butter is still Indy. Like I still love what it produces, but could be another option if you're looking for that cash flow. So, Ronnie, anything just to wrap up the show here, man? We're a little bit long, but what do you want to say to wrap up to our audience today?
No, guys, just remember, guys and gals, remember, just have fun, enjoy the journey. I know that, looking around and talking to people, it's been weird and rough. It has been, with different changes, different people wanting to buy, some people not wanting to buy. But know that these things are cyclical. It will get better. Just don't let it change who you are, and have you freak out. And then, sometimes, when it rains, it rains. But also too, when it's flower season, say let's enjoy it. So you'll get through it. If you're having a tough time, you will get through it.
Yeah, yeah. And I would just ditto on that. I think some of the things that happened, 4 or 5 years ago, some of us just got a little lazy. Maybe we didn't have to go back to the basics. Maybe we didn't have to do the fundamentals. The market was increasing so rapidly that, we just, whatever we threw out there, just kind of sold. We made a little bit of money. And I would just say now's the time to get back to the fundamentals, get back to the basics, get your long-term vision on, and you don't freak out over a month. Maybe freak out over a year if things aren't going well. But I would just say, yeah, it's just stick to your own vision, get back to the fundamentals, like Ronnie said at the beginning. So, and that's a wrap with the Indy Investor Podcast. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next time.